Hi guys, welcome to the world famous podcast, Meeting the Press. Two hosts, myself Ty, got Kristian as well today. And what we made sure we did today was wear the tops. So just to give everyone a little view, this is it, there we go.
Last one of the year and we had to pull them out.
Yeah, with it being the, just before I start, I'm not really spoken to you, how's Christmas been? All right?
Woeful.
Is it all right?
Woeful. You're not allowed to see anyone, you're not allowed to go anywhere. It was all right. It was nice and quiet.
Are you excited going into Tier 4?
Yeah, we're going into Tier 4, which is the highest at the moment. Probably be Tier 5 by next week, where the government decided to change everything, but I don't want to go into it. I'll just go crazy.
I don't want to rub it in your face, but I'm still Tier 3, so I can play football on the weekend. That's all. I mean, Tier 3, yes. Tier 3.
I'm not even sure we're meant to be speaking on this, to be honest.
I know, yeah. Tier 5 is like no contact at all. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Today's episode is going to be, it's a special for us, I think. We're obviously, the podcast is, we began it at the beginning of the lockdown. 22, something we've been thinking about for a while, but it just gave us a push that we needed. With us coming to the end of the decade, we thought, right, it'd be really good if we could just sort of have a recap of the last decade, moments, like big moments that we feel that have shaped football, whether it be great teams or people leaving, retiring. Obviously, 2020 can have its own special, but we're going to talk about 2020 as well as part of the decade. So we've done it in a chronological order, so we're going to sort of start in 2010 and the events that we've sort of thought work and had a real impact on football throughout. So to start with, Chris, I'll hand over to you, and we're going to start with the first one. We'll start in 2010.
Yeah, 2010 South Africa, the World Cup of the Vuvuzela.
Oh man,
annoying.
I can still hear it.
Oh god, it was terrible. I remember at the time when we were watching those World Cup, I was thinking, is this Vuvuzela going to take off? Like, is it going to be something that's going to be in the Premier League? Is it going to be all these? Because obviously in Leicester you have all the clappers and stuff like that. And Vuvuzela for the first game, I thought, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. But the more the tournament went on, it was absolutely horrific, and you just got sick of it by the end of it. But yeah, as a World Cup, from what I remember, it was a World Cup dominated by Spain. They were just, I think you said 2014 they were at the pinnacle, and obviously 2010 was the lead up to that. And Iniesta scoring a last-minute goal, I think that was quite iconic against the Netherlands. And one of the things that I can remember from that final was the brutal treatment that Spain got by Netherlands, in particular, like you say there, the young challenge, yeah.
Studs into the chest. And I remember Howard Webb were reffing that as well, wasn't he? And he should have sent about 3 players off. And then he's had interviews afterwards, and he said, "I didn't want to spoil the game." And I'm like, that's not your place to do. You're a referee. You referee. If someone's studying you in the chest, stood up, it's a red card. Just imagine if VAR was there, then it'd be like 7 against 8. No, it's something like 11 against 8 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it was a good time from what I think we exited the tournament really early, didn't we? Was that
surprise? Yeah.
Yeah, was that the tournament with USA where I think we lost the first game. Could be talking out my ass, but it won't have been a memorable one for England.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why we sort of started with 2010 and talk about Spain was because I think it's important for the listeners, for people that might not remember it, or just sort of a trip down memory lane. We feel Spain and the Barcelona team at the time, for me anyway, that Spain team's the greatest team I've ever seen. I think it's my pinned tweet as well. I mean, like sort of within that time period, it was obviously Barcelona were great, and the core team for Barcelona were playing for Spain as well. And it just sort of went through sort of Guardiola's team, Barcelona winning the Champions League for the last time. But just that 2010, they won the World Cup in 2010. They won the European Championships in 2012, and it was Spain were always tagged as that early team in major tournaments. But then this finally sort of, I think they obviously did it in 2008, but it just was that continuation of being a real dominant force. And it was more than just being a dominant force. It was the style of football that just sort of, no one had seen it before. It's like playing out from the back, like now teams do it. but it was a completely different level. And it was obviously the whole sort of the Barcelona spine was massive for it. Do you know? And they were, like Valdez, Piqué, and then you got your Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta. They're obviously the three main ones. And then the way they used to play, they just reinvented the game. Obviously now it's a bit more commonplace. More teams are trying it.
Yeah, because what you had then is you had it like a perfect balance. In particular in the defense, you had ball players and players who were proper defenders as well. Was it Puyol back then?
Puyol, yeah.
Yeah, so you had that nice mix of Puyol, Piqué, Sergio Ramos, or top defenders, and also ball players as well. And like you said, there was no team like that. And you used to be able to either have one or the other, but that team just seemed to have it all.
I remember when they said when that Spain were about, they were they sort of. I think Guardiola first started with a false nine, didn't he? And then Spain sort of moved on, and they started playing Fabregas a few games there, as the false nine. And you had Villa and Pedro. I mean, Pedro now people are obviously looking at him, and he's so much down the hill, when he was sort of ending, when he was finishing Chelsea. But at that time, he was just brilliant, and the whole sort of Spain thing. And I think, the last decade, they have been that Spain national team for the greatest national team I've ever seen. And that Barcelona team was just phenomenal, So that was just. I mean, obviously Guardiola has a big influence on that as well. You can see now Barcelona, they're not the same. They're pretty average by their terms anyway, by their standards.
Well, it seems to go through cycles. If you think of obviously we weren't around, but we hear about the way that Cruyff impacted Barcelona. They went through a period of dominance, and then obviously they kind of went on a smallish decline comparatively. And then it came around again. You've got that influence of Pep Guardiola. Now, obviously, we don't know the level of influence comparatively between Cruyff and Guardiola, but there was a significant impact, which actually leads us on to 2011, which was the last time that Pep won the Champions League with Barcelona.
Yeah.
And was that his third Champions League title with them?
Can't remember, but it was. Yeah, I do remember. Obviously, Guardiola links in with the whole Spain, and he's obviously had a huge influence, even though he never managed Spain. Yeah. His style of football, and I think the players that they had from Barcelona dictated that's the way Spain were going to play, because the best players, and apart from a couple of like the Real Madrid, that was effectively the team. But yeah, so that was sort of like early part of the decade. Moving on, I thought the next biggest sort of moment, this was sort of like the Premier League. I think Premier League moment was Man City. Obviously had loads of money ploughed into them over the years, and it was that 2012 Premier League finish that I don't think we're ever going to see again. How it finished, how dramatic it was. I remember when I was working at the time, we had the game on, and it was split between no one doing any work. It was split between Man United. We had about 2 Man United fans, and the rest were just anti-Man United, like all sorts of Leeds fans, and there was obviously Liverpool fans. And then they've QPR have scored. They've gone ahead. They need 2 goals. Man United have beaten Sunderland. They're in injury time. They need 2 goals to win the league, and Dzeko scores, and then that Balotelli Aguero moment. That's just going to be historic and iconic forever and ever. I can't. I mean, I remember the sort of adulation and how everyone just in the office just lost their shit when Aguero scored that goal. It was
I'm not even I don't even think you needed to be a City fan, like anyone but United. And this is not like an anything but United kind of comment. I think if it was any other 2 teams that were playing and you saw that, you can't help but be happy for that team. Not to mention it was their first ever title, and what a way to do it. I still look back, I must have watched that about last 7 minutes about a week ago, and I can still watch that back and think and watch it as if I'm a City fan. It's that type of moment that you won't see. And I remember Martin Tyler, and he said something along the lines of, "I swear you'll never see anything like this again."
Yeah, they were his words. Yeah, it was like drink it in. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, it was perfect. That was the perfect words, because it's hard to get it when the emotions are that high and something dramatic and brilliant like that's happened. To find a perfect word, sometimes you're just you're involved in it. But I thought that was a perfect line. It was just like it was. Yeah.
That's a good point. Like, how commentators keep their cool under such circumstances. You've got to wonder whether they practice out certain scenarios, whether they, think, is it going to be a last minute winner? I'm going to say these type of words, or does it come natural? Whether they're that talented? Because, like you say, they always seem to find the words.
Yeah, they'll be talented. They've just got a load of. I mean, their vocabulary is a lot better than ours. And it's got a lot more words in it than ours.
Aguero,
yeah, I know.
That's about
it's
it.
Like, fucking get it. It's like, no, you can't. But it's they're brilliant. They do it over and over again. And I remember it's just commentaries. Commentators are best. You can tell when you get the shit ones on.
Yeah, well, they make the moment what it was like.
Yeah.
But I remember from that season specifically, United had a bit of a lead, maybe like 8 or 9 points, and it just kept on getting caught smaller and smaller, and then obviously it went down to that last game. But people talk about Balotelli and how much of a bit of a waste it was. He practically made that moment, and obviously Aguero's composure. I was at the time, I remember thinking, just go down. I would have went down, but just the clinical nature of him, he was like, nah.
I think you said composure with Aguero. I think he just smashed that. He's come to, man. He's just smashed it. Yeah, I don't think he's meant to put it in the near post. Yeah. I mean, it's an Aguero finish. Do you know what I mean? It's like
it's one of those ones where you back. It's like an Aguero, Van Nistelrooy, RVP type. They're going to put their foot through it, but it's going to be accurate. You can have these players that just put the foot through it, and they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, well, that was obviously a huge moment for the Premier League. I think it's the biggest moment in Man City's history. They talk about them, going up in the League 1 or League 2 playoffs when Nicky Reed saved those penalties. But I think for them, because they needed to win the Premier League, and the Premier League winning, as teams have shown, and it's such a tough league to win. But for that moment to happen, and then they've obviously gone and won it further on. Mars have moved along. With the next moment, moving swiftly along, happened in 2013, and I think Man United will. They're gonna feel the effects of this. It feels like they're sort of getting there, but I still feel that they're a fair way away from getting to where they were before. And that was Sir Alex retiring.
Mm-hmm.
And that old fucker was supposed to retire decades ago. He kept saying I'm retiring, and everyone was like, "Staying again." You know what I mean? Because he was a great man. I mean, he wasn't bad.
He was
having a team. It's rebuilding teams, and that's what I think makes a great manager. You can start with one team and then breaking that team up slowly and getting the players, and then and then him leaving. Obviously, Man United were like, and I think that he was great as a manager, but obviously he's not great as getting someone in. And he bought David Moyes, didn't he? He was pushing for David Moyes to come in. He said, "Yeah, we need to get him in." He's good.
Just as a question, prior to Sir Alex retiring, did you foresee this happening, or did you think it would have went a little bit more smoother than what it has?
I think it would have gone smooth. I mean, it's 7 years now. I mean, I would have thought they'd have won it between now and then, but they've not been close, have they? Do you know what I mean? No. And that's not, they'd be like the Europa League team, and obviously, I mean, they've been knocked out of Champions League again this year. So when it comes to the elite, I think this season is just a bit of a mishmash because of COVID and how, I mean, the results are what they are, and I just feel it, no pre-season, and they've come back as well. They've gone on that run, but again, that's like no fans, and it's different. I think when it was a proper season, I think Man United haven't done anything, and that's just results and everything shows that, and they've gone through how many other managers.
They seem to be going through the best period at the moment, but then again, it's kind of fits and starts with them. They go through a period of getting good results, and then they'll just go like a couple of stupid games against a couple of the bottom teams, and then they're back where they are, and it's all out again. But they seem to be going through, like, obviously they'll garner a lot of confidence with where the results have gone recently.
Yeah.
They seem to be on the upward trajectory, but I think it's still a false dawn until they get in it's higher up than the manager. It's the manager itself. But
the only thing I'd say is this season I can see a weird team winning the league just because of the current, the way it is. It's just bonkers.
It's like a Leicester season, isn't it?
It's just like there's the pandemic's obviously had a huge part. No pre-season. I think Liverpool losing all the centre halves, and I still the best two teams are Liverpool and Man City, but I still think Man City are in a bit of a, and Liverpool, if they get the arse at the gear, you'd expect them to win it. But that was a huge moment in the last decade for us anyway. I'll give the 2014. That's you. You can talk about that.
I don't know whether I can talk. I don't know whether I can still talk about it. Well, 2014 was the title that never was. Obviously, the slip by Steven Gerrard, as most other fans will remember it by. I like to remember it as probably the most exciting Liverpool team that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Up until now.
Yeah. Back to front, whether it be comical defending or absolutely amazing attacking. It was, we all see the memes and all the pictures of, a car where it has a Ferrari back end, it has some like broken down, beaten up, old school Skoda at the back. And that's exactly what we were. We were unbelievable going forward. Horrific defending, and it just made for an absolutely amazing season. And I just remember as all Liverpool fans will, the game against City, and I still take me back to that moment when we were still going to win that league every time. I just couldn't see a way back.
I think it's so hard to pin it on one player, but that game when Henderson got sent off in the last minute against Man City. That for me was the biggest moment in that last, because he was phenomenal for us. You know what I mean? And the Gerrard slip, it wasn't. It can happen. But it wasn't just that. I mean, the Crystal Palace game wasn't just that, because the Palace game we drew. Even if we won it, we were going to lose it because our goal difference was that shit. So but again, that just came back to how one kind defence was. We had Skirtle and Mignolet goals. And you swap them with like Van Dijk and Alisson. With the best team in Europe, but obviously we've got other players in as well. But I mean, we had Suarez, we had Sterling, we had Coutinho. We had some really good players. Front line, Gerrard obviously had to play a bit more of a withdrawn role in where he was playing. But no, it was just that was brilliant and painful at the same time.
Yeah, and Gerrard gets ridiculed because of that moment, and that's if I can just erase that moment and we lost the title, I wouldn't mind it, because the amount of stuff that he gets because of that slip, it's almost like everybody forgets what he does. Obviously, other than Liverpool fans.
Is Liverpool's greatest player in my lifetime anyway. So that slip doesn't. He's won his Champions League. He's got us close to the title.
Yeah. And he still talks about it now. He still talks about it now that it haunts him, and it will. And I don't think he'll ever get over that. I think the closest thing he'll ever get, obviously, he's doing well with Rangers at the moment. Likely going to win them the league. But if he wins the league as maybe a Liverpool manager, that might get him past it.
Yeah.
As for the rest of the team, the good thing about that season, obviously, was Luis Suarez. He was just phenomenal. He's just smashing all kind of records. He was just.
Obviously,
he's best version of himself.
Yeah, obviously, off the field stuff was just what it. But he's been one of the best strikers in the Premier League. There's no debate for that. I think what he did, what sort of player he was. He did everything. Do you know what I mean? He could play up front in his zone. He could play out wide. He could just be a nasty bastard. Do you know what I mean? His touch was brilliant. His finishing was ridiculous. The goal. Norwich was glad he left the Premier League because he scored like 6-7 times.
Yeah, and what you've got is also you've got Brendan Rodgers. He was. I thought he was quality. Like I say, putting that team together. At the time you had Jordan Henderson playing. Like you said earlier, he was excellent. He was the pivotal moment why we lost that season. Just his engine, his drive, and only now people are really seeing the true reality of what the player that he's become. He's at the moment he's the best. He is the best version of himself right now. I don't think he's ever going to get it any better than what he is right now. But it was kind of an indication back then of what he was going to turn into.
Yeah.
And obviously this year as well was also the year of the World Cup, 2014, when Luis Suarez bit Bratislav Ivanovic as well.
Yeah, it was this year. It was won it Ivanovic and thingy. Yeah, so he just cheerleading, wasn't it? Brilliant. Thanks, Suarez. Whilst we'll stick with the Liverpool theme, move on to 2015, which I think is another huge moment in the Premier League. Was Jurgen Klopp joining Liverpool. Mad in it, thinking that's 5 years ago.
It seems like a lot longer, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you look at the team, I'm sure I saw snap of when he took over the team that he had. Fuck me, it was shit. Do you know what I mean? It was absolutely dog shit. Like how he's changed that team. And again, you know, people talk about net spend, but listening to the commentary recently, the 40 since FSG have turned, Liverpool have got the 40th highest net spend in the league, and yet they're the best team in the league. You know, and that's just like phenomenal. I mean, the recruitment's obviously, you know, we can have another episode on that. But recruitment's brilliant, and that's as important as anything else in a professional football club at the moment. But yeah, no, that was a huge moment for them joining. I mean, obviously they were after him and getting him over the line from some of the shit we had. We had like Hodgson and, do you know what I mean, Konchesky and Pulse, and we've had some shit in that team. But him coming, I think that he just changed the Premier League.
Yeah, that team was absolutely brutal. I remember we had, I think it was Tottenham, first game of the season at White Hart Lane, and it was ended up 0-0. And you could instantly see like players were busting their asses. They were constantly closing down, and you know, like when we say that certain managers that don't seem to have an identity early on, he kind of take away that excuse. Like he kind of went straight in, and you could see what we were doing immediately. And I remember saying to my girlfriend at the time, "Remember this moment. This is the moment where we're going to win the league." And she'll say, "Couldn't give a fuck." She won't remember that, but I remember that, like, being so positive that good things were coming when he came. And just before this, I was looking online, and before Jurgen Klopp came to us, we finished outside of the top 4 6 out of 7 seasons between 2010 2016. Outside of the top 4. I couldn't believe that we were out, you know, for that long a time. He's come in and done what he did. Like, obviously, his first season, I think, didn't we finish 7th in that season? Yeah. But we were more focused on the cup competitions.
Yeah. I think he's lost a few cup finals, hasn't he? And then obviously moving on the Champions League.
We got to the
League Cup.
Was it the Europa? Was it the Europa and one?
Yeah.
Europa and one of the others.
Yeah, and then with the game when we took the lead, Sturridge had scored, didn't he? And then obviously Sevilla went and did what Sevilla did.
Yeah, that was it.
You know, but yeah, that's a huge moment. I think the next one though is the biggest moment in the Premier League history, and I can't see it. I mean, honestly, I can't see it. There's not going to be anyone as big as Price as that winning. I mean, even if someone from the top sort of 6, 7 win it now, you'd probably see Aston Villa at the absolute outsiders if they were going to win it this year. Just because they're not going to be as big as Leicester. I mean, Leicester were 5,000 to 1, weren't they? So that's the next sort of big milestone of the last decade.
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest achievement, and you know, like, you think of this season where a lot of the teams are dropping off. You know, it can come. Any team can win it from, let's say, around about the top 6 teams, and the only reason that we say that any team can win from the top 6 is because of Leicester. Because usually we would say, well, it's only going to be 1 or 2, but because of what Leicester did, it's always possible now. Like, the impossible became possible that season, and just, you know, Arsenal and Spurs will be kicking themselves that they didn't win that league, and likewise this season, whoever doesn't win, unless someone goes on a 20-game unbeaten run now and walks away with the title, anyone from them top 6 will be kicking themselves, saying this was our Leicester year, effectively.
I mean, if you go through that Leicester team as well, I remember that. I mean, I said that's a perfect storm for them to win it, and it was, because if you look at the defence and the team, that defence was a Championship defence. Mm-hmm. You know, they had Fuchs, Wes Morgan, Robert Huth, and Danny Simpson. I mean, that's a wank back four. I don't care what you say. Yeah. They obviously had Vardy and Mahrez and Kante, where the magic, and they'd obviously all moved on, and you know, you can see what level they're playing at now. Mm-hmm. But they were all at the pomp as well, and you know, and it just suited them perfectly. They're playing counter-attacking football, and we've got some unbelievable luck in that season. But you need it, you know, for them to win it. You know, you're not going to just avoid relegation the season before and then go on smashing to do it. I mean, there were similarities between them and Aston Villa are massive, aren't they? Aston Villa just survived last season, and here they are. They're like pretty much, they've got a lot more solid back forward. They've got a threat going forward, you know.
What I liked about Leicester is that they were very focused. Like, you know, if you think of you come up against like, I'd say the biggest comparison I can make today is Tottenham. Like, Jose Mourinho at the moment, he's trying to get a goal, hold on to a lead, and kind of grind out a win. And that's the way that I see him trying to win the league. I don't believe that he believes that they can win the league any other way. Now, like, you normally associate with that with like the teams that are in the bottom of the league. You think of West Brom came at Wanfield, held out, and the amount of concentration that you've got to have in that game alone, that 90 minutes alone to stop Liverpool from scoring and scoring yourself at the other end. Now, if you imagine Leicester had to do that over 38 games where they were just winning games 1-0, the concentration that they had throughout that season was absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, the manager, Claudio Ranieri, he just the biggest shock of all. Where did it come from?
Yeah, that was just. I mean, we look back now. We're looking back at decades. So in moments like that, you just think, did that really happen? Yeah, it did. Sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like you mentioned earlier, that the players that are, were in that team. You've got Mahrez that's went on to City. Won a couple of things here and there. He's not done too great. Kante, Chelsea obviously went on one title. He's probably been the best of them. Then you've got who was the lad in midfield with Kante?
Danny Drinkwater. He's just fallen off a cliff, hasn't he?
Exactly, yeah. And then you've got Jamie
He went
Vardy.
to Chelsea. Did he go for Chelsea for like 40 minutes? Then he couldn't get a game in Chelsea, and then he went to Burnley. I don't know where the fuck he's just finished. It's like
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you think there's only really Vardy. I'd say Vardy and Kante who kind of kept that.
Yeah, I'd say Mahrez as well, and Schmeichel. I'd say they're the ones that have kept that sort of level. Obviously, the rest of them retired or just.
But yeah, like just finishing on that, it's kind of forged where they are now. They're an established team where you're not surprised that they're up there in the top six. You wouldn't like. They seem to always have a good run where you think, they're actually in this title race. They did it. I think it was last year up until Boxing Day when we played them. And even this year, you thought they were in it up until a point. So, yeah, good on them. I hope they continue. Like, I do like them. I think they're a good side, good club.
Next biggest moment is the transfer market we're going to talk about and how that's changed over the last decade and how we're getting some really shit players going for a lot of money. And there's obviously a standout player and the standout moment where we felt the market changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, which one? Let them know which one.
So PSG signed Neymar, and I think it's massive. Like so significant. It kind of set like a merry-go-round, a transfer merry-go-round at the time. You had Neymar going from Barca to PSG, and then I think didn't Barca bring in Dembele almost straight away.
About 120 or something, and Coutinho for about 150. The prices are ridiculous, weren't they?
Yeah, like we you always thought that prices for players were ridiculous, but now they're just gone astronomical through the roof. You've got players like Kepa, for example, going for 70 million now. He doesn't even start, and that's the ridiculous thing. But I've just I was going through Wikipedia, the most reliable source you can get, and there's 13 players that have been over 70 million since Neymar signed for Barcelona. Wow. Can you name 5 of them?
Van Dijk, Maguire, Kepa, Dembele, Coutinho.
You can't have Coutinho and Dembele. We already said those.
All right, man. What are you doing to me? You're killing me. Let me think. I've said Maguire. Who else? Man United must have bought some shit. Pogba.
No, that was before then.
Was that before? Fred? Is he quite a bit?
50 million.
Oh wow. Man City must have Diaz. No, he was about 65, wasn't he? No, I'll give up. Go on. But yeah, I bet there'll be some absolute rubbish in there as well.
So you've got Havertz, Pepe, Nicolas Pepe, Lukaku going to Inter Milan. You've got you're right on Van Dijk, Maguire, Cristiano Ronaldo, Eden Hazard, Antoine Griezmann, João Felix, and of course Mbappe as well. So
I mean, it's interesting because we had the podcast earlier on about the biggest flops, and quite a few of them made it in that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah. Like, the fact that you've got Pepe, going for that type of astronomical fee. Do you think there's any like reduction? Like, do you think we're going to go back to where transfer fees did, or do you think that this is where the market's at now?
I think if the market was ever going to reset, would be this year in the pandemic with no fans. You know what I mean? With reduced income and all that, and it doesn't feel like it is with Chelsea going. It's like the world's a different place. I mean, we've got the rich owners. They just live in a world of their own. You know what I mean? It's not they're not in the they're nowhere close to the normal people. They'll just buy whoever they want. Manager will go like that, and I just felt this year was the year it should have reset, but it's not. And
I think the next couple of transfers, big transfers, will dictate the market as we go forward, because like Liverpool are probably the biggest point in that the owners, they're not willing to like splash into the market at the moment because they don't know where the playing field is. So it's going to take one club, probably looking at you, Man United, to dictate the market from here, whether it be like a Jadon Sancho. Is he going to be 80 million? Is he going to be 100, or is he going to be in the 120 to 50 category? And that's when you're going to know where things are. I
think they'll always go high, because clubs will always hold that against the buying club. They'll say, well, he went for that. We think he's better than that, so that's the price that you're going to have to pay. The buying clubs will always have the power. And then whether it means they pay back over a longer period of time, or they go say, right, okay, thanks, no thanks. So you're thinking Haaland, Sancho, the next two big, and Mbappe probably they'll be the ones that maybe high value.
Yeah, well, what was Neymar's final? What was his fee?
About 200. About 200 million, wasn't it? Just not far off 200 either. 200, just short of 200.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of where that came from, where that fee came from, because obviously you had Pogba before that. I think he was only 80 million. Now, I don't know how you managed to jump up. I don't know.
At the time, the thing is, at the time, Neymar was classed as one of them. You had Ronaldo and Messi, and then it was sort of like Neymar was the next. He was going to he's going to take over Messi and Ronaldo, and you probably thought that it's not that bad a price. It's probably about right, because he was young and he's a brilliant footballer. Regardless of people what think of having died and stuff, he's still
But the problem that you have now with Neymar specifically is that what's his next fee going to be, and which club can afford it? You're kind of stuck in that situation. So it's kind of a rod for his own back, if anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Moving on, 2018, when football almost came home, and then they fucked it up.
I was going to intercept with, but did it? But it was kind of the year that we were promised from the golden generation. We never quite got it. We never got it from Owen, Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard. We never got it from them. And if anything, we went into this tournament with a bit more of a balanced squad. Like a lot of more players that weren't specifically when you think of the Gerrard and Lampard era, pretty much they were all in you would consider an almost world-class level, whereas this team was kind of a bit of an unknown outside of the Premier League. We have so many young players, a young manager, and a quite favourable draw, if anything. You put all of those things together, and you get to the semi-finals, and then you come across really the first bit of quality, which in Croatia I thought we probably could have beat them, but the quality that they have that exceptional player in Modric, which absolutely dominated.
I mean, you looked at they had enough. They had good quality. They had Modric, Rakitic, Perisic. And do you know what I mean? So just across that final third, they had a bit more. That was interesting. I mean, it wasn't just England winning, doing really well in the tournament. I think the whole feel-good factor it brought to the nation. And you saw, all the sort of beers getting thrown about, in the summer camps. It was just like everyone just felt this was it, and it's amazing how much of a positive impact your national football team can have on you. And the standout game for me was a Colombia one, because it felt like a real away game, because the Colombians seemed to have all the tickets in the stadium, but like a real away game, and they were backs against the wall. Obviously, it's got no penalty shootout. They were just, they were horrific. And then getting through that, the joy, and then it just went on. You just felt and then obviously beat Sweden. I just felt when they got to play, they're never going to get an easier route to winning a major tournament than they did in that, and it was almost like the perfect storm. They've taken the lead against Croatia as well, and it just was, can you hold on? Can you? And then Croatia just sort of got the ball and the ball dominant. But just overall, I just felt it was
it was a good time, wasn't it?
It gave England fans the belief that we can play out from the back, we can play good football, we can match against our European and world counterparts. And it was really brave, and I like Southgate for that, because even now, England they still play the same way. They obviously, switch between playing 3 at the back or 4 at the back, but the actual style of play is the same. And he's really, people obviously talk about number one, and he's going Pickford, because Pickford's brilliant with the ball at his feet. And it's a huge part for playing out from the back, and and on top of that, they've actually built on it as well, because the players they've got in attacking areas now are just more creative. And you sort of go back to the Roy Hodgson area when he was managing against Iceland. That was absolutely impressive. I remember that as well. So saying that, and it's just a few years later, and England fans had just given up. We're just shit. We're going to be the same forever. But then that 2018, it was a switch. It was a flick of the switch when it said, we've got a chance here. And then obviously the pandemic comes and fucks this up, because we should have been in the European Championships.
Yeah, we should have been grown from that. But it was, I felt like Gareth Southgate was in like a no-lose situation when he first came in. It was kind of like Frank Lampard going into Chelsea, in that, it was the first time where we felt that we kind of had a bit of a dearth in world-class quality. You've obviously got Harry Kane. And then beyond, like at that time, you thought Harry Kane maybe, and then Raheem Sterling maybe. Kind of like a dearth of world-class quality. But obviously now, he overachieved back then. Now coming to the next tournament, he's expected to do something, kind of like Frank Lampard in his second season, where he was allowed to sign players. You kind of expected to do something. Now, do you think going on with this set of players, we can push beyond the semi-final this time?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason being now, the players that it's got, they play for top teams. I know they've always played for top teams, but they're in the Champions League, and I think the coaching is similar to the way Southgate wants them to play. So they're always going to play off the back, press high, that sort of style, and it's they've all bought into the philosophy, and it's a very much the biggest thing. I think it's got a club feel to it now. There doesn't seem to be any egos. Before there used to be a standout player or something. Do you know what I mean? There's like proper leaders in there as well, and they're blessed to have, like, they've got Kane, they've got Henderson, they've got proper leaders. Maguire, they've got club captains. You know what I mean? And that makes a spine in the team. And then
I think you made a good point there. You did make a good point there, in that it's the first time where it seems like the clubs and the national team kind of meshing together. The way that they're playing, specifically, totally agree on that.
The thing is, to win a tournament, you need an unbelievable amount of luck. Will they? You just don't know, but they're certainly up there. They'll definitely be challenging for it. But again, you need that bit of luck, don't you, in those tie games.
Yeah, absolutely. But going off what you were saying there, if you think of the identity of what you call the greatest ever national team, 2014 Spain. That identity was basically a mesh of a Barcelona, Real Madrid hybrid, and it's an interesting point that you make. That the clubs that we have currently, they're all trying to play out from the back, whether it be your Brightons, even at Brighton, they are playing that way. So yeah,
absolutely. So moving on. We've also got the La Decima, haven't we, for the Real Madrid in that. I think it was 2018, but within the last decade anyway. So that was obviously a huge one. League 10 times. Remember Zidane just sort of, he got the job, and he didn't. I don't know. People weren't convinced by him, but he just kept on winning the Champions League. He's like, okay, I'll just win it 10 times. And then to go down in history. You know what I mean?
I'm just I'm just trying to think back over these La Decima seasons. Real Madrid didn't necessarily wipe the floor with La Liga in that time, so it was very much a cup team throughout that period. And that is some achievement, and I don't think you'll ever get. I know it's easy to say, but I don't think it'll happen again. 3 times in a row, Champions League winners.
No, absolutely. I mean, they had a lot of luck as well, though. I mean, they had obviously the Atletico Madrid one when Sergio Ramos scored in the last injury time against Liverpool when they had like Karius on their side. Do you know what I mean? It was just what game you need luck to win that. You know, you're not going to Leicester. You know, you're not going to win a 5,000 to 1 shot. You're not going to win 10 Champions Leagues. You know, you need that. But they're obviously a brilliant team. So I just thought it was good to give them a little mention. So now as we move on to the later part of the decade, so 2019, this is for me anyway, the greatest comeback. I'd say ever. I'm going to go out there and say ever, just because of the circumstances that sort of, you know, were around and players that were out. So it was obviously the Liverpool-Barcelona Champions League semi-final when Liverpool won the season. Liverpool won it, which was 2019 last year. They obviously went away. They lost 3-0, and Messi scored the free kick right in the last minute to make it 3-0. And you're thinking, that's 2. You think you've got a chance at Anfield, 3-0. And I watched the game, and it wasn't a 3-0 game because I thought we were good. I thought we just, you know, we should have scored.
I actually thought we were a better team. I thought we were the better team in that game.
And I remember I was begging and asking for tickets, and I managed to get hold of a guy, and he was selling it for 500 quid. Until this day, that's my biggest regret. And I said no because it was 3. I was like, 500 quid's a lot of money then. But then I had to. It wasn't just 500 quid. I had to pick someone up from Doncaster, take them there, then drive back to Doncaster, and come back home. And I was like, that's a lot here. And then as it got close, I think it was Monday. No, was it Monday? It was Friday. It was a Friday before, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And I got in touch with the guy. Said, sorry, mate, tickets. Anyway, games. And then we had a front line of Origi, Shaqiri, and fucking Mane. It was an absolute cowboy. It was like, you know, it was like almost a reserve team you're playing against Messi.
It was like, who's fit? If you're fit, stand over there.
Yeah, exactly. And then we went, and it was just, I mean, Origi, and obviously people have watched it in the Trent corner, but just as a comeback, and it is, I mean, there's something special at Anfield, and it's got nothing. People say we've got a great atmosphere. Like, yeah, there is, but I've been there, and it's not. There are games where it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not great. It's just, you know, even at Champions League, there's something about that stadium that has a special pull that creates magical moments. And it sounds cheesy, it sounds like that, but there's not. I don't think there's not many stadiums in the world that have that. And there's something about Anfield. You go, you think you're dead and buried, but there's always a fear. There's a niggling fear as an away team. You couldn't lose this because it's Anfield. Not the players. You look at the players, you think, you know, you should keep it. That's a bag of wank. And do you know what I mean? But there's just something there. And obviously the Olympiacos some years ago, there's just so many. You look back and there's so many great comebacks in that stadium. But that was a superb comeback, and obviously went on.
I agree with you about the Anfield thing. Like, obviously, I'm going to agree with you. I'm a Liverpool fan, but you know, it's not necessarily the league games. It's not necessarily the cup games. It's a Champions League game, like a Champions League under the lights. It just brings out something, and that comeback was ridiculous. I just remember, like, you know, Gini Wijnaldum, like, you know, I'm his biggest critic. Going, how he leaps up for that header and then scores the other one. Like, you know, that just doesn't happen. That's not Gini Wijnaldum. Like, that's Gini Wijnaldum of, let's say, the Netherlands.
Yeah,
just
saying like I was playing as a 10. Yeah,
yeah. It's like everything just clicked in that game, and like you know, we go back to that Barcelona in the Nou Camp. I couldn't believe how composed we were. I thought we were going to get a bit of a hammering possession-wise in that game, and we, like, Fabinho was just amazing. I was so proud of the lads, and then to get a stuff, and it was so harsh, and then to see Suarez celebrate in the way that he did, I was just like, get you back to Anfield. Like you said, at 2-0, get you back to Anfield. And even when it went to 3-0, I thought, we're still going to give them a good going over at Anfield. They'll get a goal. Yeah. But obviously when they didn't, and then, you know, I think back to, like, their chances. I think back to the Dembele chance at 3-0, where it could have been 4-0 at their place, and, you know, obviously I think that would have killed it. I think that would have been the end of it. But also, you know, like the Messi chance where, you know, he takes the corner, and then someone plays, like, I think he plays it back to him, and then Alisson saves at the front post. Yeah, and it's just everything about that day.
So that Trent corner to Origi is like one of the most iconic moments of the last decade. You know, I mean, you see that it's quick. The ball boy getting involved, turns and quickly Origi, Origi shit. He scored him, but he's shit. You know what I mean? He's never going to do that
great
again.
Finish.
A hell of a finish, yeah. I don't know where it was going.
It's also to the detriment as well of our quick corners now, because you know that every single team is switched on to Trent corners. I always think, is it on? Is it on? Is it on? It's never on these days. But yeah, magical moment.
Absolutely, and obviously within that season, I won the league, but then the title race, Man City obviously won the treble. That title race, that was the season I thought we had a phenomenal team. I know we didn't win it, but I thought we had a phenomenal team, and both those teams, I just thought we're up against another phenomenal team, and that title race will never happen again, ever. Both teams got 90 plus.
If you think about this, I think we ended up on 97, Man City ended up on 98. In order for them to win the league on 98 points, a point clear of us, they had to win 14 games on the bounce. That is some achievement for them. As amazing as we are, that 14 games on the bounce, the way that they did. And I think it was at the Leicester game.
That was the one, yes. That's the one, the dagger in my heart.
The Vincent Kompany out of nowhere. It's like Genie Wijnaldum. It's Vincent Kompany. Go on, have a shot, son. Have a shot. We're not bothered. You're not going to score. This is ending 0-0, and it's our title. Stanches the top corner. Of course he does.
I know. Do you know the thing about that as well is, do you remember Iheanacho going through and he's fucking missed it square to him?
I do, yeah.
And he's like, how does he miss the target from there? It's like, just if he hits the target, he pretty much scores. He's put it miles wide. And I'm like,
anytime I see Iheanacho score, and it's rare, I just think you didn't do that one game. Anytime he scores, I remember that moment of you didn't score that. But maybe with all the money that Man City have put into the game recently, you can kind of begrudge them of their achievement. You kind of put it away, but it's not down to the players. The achievements that they've done. We kind of just brushed over as well the 100-point season. That was phenomenal. And this treble winning season as well, where they finished with 98 and we finished with 97. A lot of that season they didn't have Kevin De Bruyne as well, so they are a phenomenal team, phenomenal manager. But unfortunately, you just can't see them get over the line with the competition that they do actually want.
Yeah, Champions League. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know about the 14 games they won on the bounce. I mean, I remember Gary Neville saying it's the most phenomenal title race because Liverpool win, they'd win. Liverpool, even as it gets closer, we remember the title races of Arsenal, Man United, where there'd be a draw, there'd be a win, the Newcastle, Man United. Do you know what I mean? There was always teams that would drop a couple of points. They just both went bang, 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 bang. It went all the way. You literally had to be at 100% every game, and it was going to the death, last-minute goals and everything was just phenomenal. And then obviously Liverpool just following, what they had to do.
I remember someone saying that they both should get a Premier League win.
Not me, a dickhead. Yeah.
As much as I want it, as much as I'd take it.
Thought obviously Liverpool won the Super Cup and the World Club Championship as well, which was great. But moving on swiftly to 2020, which could be a podcast episode. It needs a season of its own. We don't need one podcast. It needs 10 episodes. Fuck me, where'd you start?
2020 is known as the asterisk season, is it not?
Yeah, it's so pandemic hit, fucking hell, COVID-19 hit, we've had the VAR come in, we've had, is it going to start, the season going to finish, 3 championships having to get shuffled away. And we're still in there, and it's just is there going to be a circuit breaker for the Premier League? Games being postponed now. I remember when sort of COVID first hit, it was just Premier League, we can carry on. The moment it sort of turned was when Arteta got confirmed with it. It was right, we're going to have to, that's it, now we've got to shut it. This is just shit serious. Before the government obviously stepped up and said, no, you're not doing anything. Liverpool were obviously pretty much had won it. They were about, 20 points clear.
And every null and void.
Every other fan in the country that said, null and void, you're not going to win it, can't finish it, not going to do it. And then they were managing to say, Liverpool obviously deserve it, it's not going to work like that. I mean, I knew we'd win it, and I did. But the thing was, a little bit of me thought was the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic's unknown to us. We don't know what it's like to have the world sort of in shutdown. And I'm thinking, could this really happen that we're not going to get the title because of a fucking virus? It
was all the way through. I was thinking, it's not going to happen. We're going to win the title still. we're going to win the title still. And then I was thinking, right, we'll at least get handed the title. And I was like, I don't want to be handed the title. And then I'm like, should we null and void? And then I was like, oh, well, there were just so many different things. And now, you think we're in the new strain of the virus. We're currently, if you're looking from the future, we're in the new strain of the virus now. And, no one's calling for null and void because practically every fucker can win the league at the moment. Yeah. So they're all like, nah, we're good. Tottenham have probably fell away, so they're like, yeah, null and void. Yeah. But everyone else is still in it. So, it's been a hell of a year. Like you said, VAR, that's, the integration that pretty much I'd say most people wanted. I know I, for certain, wanted VAR to come in and, for the contentious decisions, you think, oh, there's going to be nothing to talk about on Match of the Day, but nah.
Yeah, I think we've always talked about VAR before. We said it just needs to be factual stuff. So, like, obviously, the Man United game against West Ham when that ball went out of play and came back in down the line, stuff like that needs to be. So they can have like goal line technology, whatever, same technology on the sidelines. If it goes out, it's out. Beats to the ref, he knows. The offsides need to be fucking. It should just literally be wherever your boot is. So the edge of the boot needs to be the line. Do you know what I mean? So if you're leaning over, fucking fair enough. That's just the rule. Get on with it. But it needs to be clear, crystal clear. I think in the recent games, the handball rule seems to be a lot better. In that, if it hits you, it's fine. It's as long as you don't make it's a penalty if you make your body bigger, or if you know what I mean, if your hands above your head sort of thing, which is fair. You get that. That's clear. Before it was just like bounce off your hands. Like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? It was just so many, and the Liverpool Brighton game when Welbeck goes down and there's a one and he gets a penalty, then the Rafinha one. Sorry, the Padea, Padea plays for Leeds, the winger. Poveda, he gets clipped against Chelsea, but nothing. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same as Welbeck, but there's that inconsistency. So you need to know what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Like you say, we spoke about it, and it's all because it's subjective. If you think of the incident with Mane and the Newcastle keeper, he clearly holds his leg last night. But that's never going to get brought back because he doesn't go down. And
that's the other thing. Players have got to go down. The whole myth about they'll give it regardless is bullshit. If you don't go down, you're not getting a penalty because they say there's not enough contact. That will always be the response. All it'll be is obvious. Hold his leg there. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't highlight this much, but we're getting better. We need technology in there. So
you're 100% right in that the handball rule is starting to get better. We're starting to improve, and that's obviously. That's good for the future because you think it's got to get better. Certain things have got to get better, but I hate the fact now that we can't celebrate the goals. And also, it's a little trait that I've started to dislike about myself, and I've started to notice whenever we concede a goal, I'm thinking we've got a chance here that VAR is going to rule this goal out. Is someone offside in the build-up, and you're like, that's not the way that you want to be thinking.
I'm exactly the same. It's a really good point. That the game seems to have changed. I mean, if they just eradicate that and make it right and clean, and the other thing, obviously, European Championships got shifted this year, so that's moved on to 2021. The year has just been, we're obviously having games postponed. Recently, we've had the Man City game postponed. Looks like Spurs game got postponed because of COVID as well.
It looks like the 2021 might be the one that's sacrificed if anything else prolongs as well. So it's just been, it's been a hell of a year. Apart from football, obviously, we've been in lockdown. You're in tier 4 now. I'm in tier 3. I imagine we'll be in tier 4 now sometimes. Well, one other thing 2020 brought us was the world famous Beating the Press podcast.
Absolutely. Without that, we would not be here talking. We won't be wearing these great tops. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's been a fun decade. It's had its highs, it's definitely had its lows. Great teams. We've lost a lot of players. Great Maradona. I mean, we talk about. We are going to finish now. We're just going to sort of talk about. I'll talk about we said we'll finish, so we'll talk about our 3 big moments of the last decade that sort of don't have to be highs, not have to be lows, just biggest impactful moments. For me, obviously Maradona passing away this year, I think that was, players have died before and I've been like, all right, but with him it really hit me, and I think it hit the world as well. because he was, he's one of the greats, and we talk about one of the literally is one of the greats. It's either him or Messi. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. Him dying. That's one of them for me. The other one was I know I put it in 2014. I still stand by it. That Spain team, they changed the way the game was played. They were phenomenal, brilliant. The stuff they did was just the way the Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta, them three playing, phenomenal. And then the last one for me is obviously Liverpool winning the league. It's been a long way, and it's it took it right to the end of the decade, and obviously that's linked with Jurgen Klopp taking over as well. Yeah. So they're my three. What are yours?
Well, my three moments, Liverpool aside, I didn't think I'd put in Liverpool because all of my three would be Klopp joining Liverpool, Liverpool winning the league, Liverpool winning the Champions League. But yeah, so I'm going to go with I'd say the best moment for me, 100% is the Aguero moment. I don't think you can top that as a moment that if you wanted to show someone who's never seen football a moment of football, that would be it for me, because it can't be beat. It's their first title. How they did it, ridiculous. Say most significant part of the decade for me was Sir Alex Ferguson retiring. It'd be interesting to see how Klopp would have head with Sir Alex, but that dynasty basically, Manchester United, has just seemed to have come to an end. I think that's quite a significant and poignant moment of the decade for me. And but the biggest achievement's got to be Leicester. I think it's everyone's dream. It just goes to show that any club can climb the heights of the pyramid and just get to the top division and ultimately win it when against all odds, 5,000 to 1. Leicester for me are the biggest winners of the decade. No,
that's great shout. I mean, like I said, we could go through about another 10, but I think those three absolutely warrant a mention. So what we're going to do, guys, obviously, if you like what we've said, please talk about it, stick them in the comments, like, subscribe. But what we're going to do is we're going to stick it on a poll on our Twitter account as well. So if you could just we'll pick 4 from the sort of 6 we've mentioned. We'll stick it on there, decide which one you want, and then we'll obviously announce it next time we have we do the podcast. Well, yeah, that's the decade done. Anything you want to add, Chris? Seeing as it's New Year's Eve and it's the last one, isn't it?
Well, I just want to wish everybody a happy New Year. Hope this decade basically gets a lot better than the last one ended. So yeah, all the best to everyone that's watched. It's been a great year for our podcast, but other than that, nothing.
Yeah, no, just echo that. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's great we started it, and it was something we've been thinking about doing for a while. But happy New Year. Be as happy as you can. It's, you're going to be. I'd imagine most of the listeners are going to be in lockdown. You're not going to be going anywhere. Be at home.
We're in tier 4.
Yeah, get some Kristian, drink some stuff and knock yourselves out.
Can't even go to the shop.
No, yeah, you can. Got lots left on Morrison as well. You're absolutely fucked. But no, everyone, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe. Put a comment down there. Let us know if you disagree with anything we said. But no, thanks for. I know this is a sort of extra long one. But we felt we needed to get it out there with it being end of the decade. We didn't realise it was going to be the end of the decade until we thought like a week ago. We thought, shit, it's the end of the decade. We better do something for this one. But yeah, thanks for listening, subscribing, guys. Any comments down there? Have a great New Year, and we shall see you next time.
Great New Year, guys. Cheers. Bye.